what if we had a zoning classification on this piece of land that said, look, if you're going to do something brand new, if you're going to knock down the structures, build highway corridor, because you're right next door to all of the other stuff that's highway corridor. And let's face it, we all know that eventually something that looks like Crossroads is going to jump on the south side of I-20, and you need something in that zone that looks like it makes sense in the Crossroads and Buc-ee's area. So that's what the point of the highway corridor zoning is. On the other hand, nobody's in some big hurry to knock anything down. We've got existing buildings. They have existing opportunity to be used for good commercial uses. Let's write a zoning rule that makes it possible for somebody to say, look, I just want to use the existing structure, and let's make that opportunity available. And that's what we've put in writing down here. So if you follow the logic of it and you go through it, what would happen? At the end of this, existing business would be able to say, hey, I can use this for my existing intended use, and I won't have to worry about a zoning problem. We haven't been able to issue a CO because it's a zoning violation. There may be other issues with the grounds, but that's okay. Those are all things you can overcome if you know you have zoning for that piece of property. So let's look at the details here and walk through it. So I'm going to be on agenda item page 6 for a second and kind of walk through this. The City of Terrell, again, it's a city-initiated rezoning. Obviously, staff is giving you a positive recommendation on this to do a planned development highway corridor. Remember, planned development means it's not one of our standard zoning classifications. And the way we like to write those into the City of Terrell is to say, okay, the base is an existing zoning classification, and all we're doing is adding a very specific thing to that. So it's going to be highway corridor base, and then we're adding to highway corridor base under a planned development zoning classification. So again, February 23rd was that date, and we're trying to allow the property owners to be able to apply for specific use permits under an allowed zoning use. So the underlying zoning use is going to remain highway corridor, but if they want to modify the uses of it, they can do it by specific use permit. So for those of you who haven't been on planning and zoning for a long time, remember what that means. That means you get a step 1 of creating, in our use chart, an S use chart. Specific use permit, which means that you don't do it automatically. You do it after you come forward and you apply and you say, hey, here's the conditions that are going to be on this, because there's something unusual about it where you just need to look at what the rules are going to be before you say, yes, you can go forward and use it, okay? So that's one first thing I want you to understand here. Today, you would be, if you want to vote yes, you're creating the opportunity for someone to come forward at a different Planning and Zoning Commission meeting and say, I'm asking now for the special permission. Now I'm going to apply for an S specific use permit, and then I will therefore be able to use it under a set of special conditions. But we're very methodical around here, and we felt like step 1 in that was, let's see if we can create the S as a category, so then that creates a door that someone can open up later on and walk through with your permission if you like that list of specific uses in the future. So keep going here. If it is approved, then the next step for any applicant on either of these 2 parcels of land would be to submit a specific use permit, walk that through the process, then submit anything that might be related to a construction plat that might need to be done. Sometimes that's important, sometimes it's not. And then you do any infrastructure development that you're going to do, and you get a plat approved and you move forward from there. So let's keep going through our set materials here. The next page shows you the map, so you can see where the map is on that land and what that entails. You can see the existing zoning classification. That dark blue color is that highway corridor. If you move a little bit further south, you're into an executive estate zoning. If you move north across Sage Hill Parkway, that's that sort of pink and red color for commercial zoning. We sent letters out, as is the way under state law. Tried to attempt to describe what we were doing here. I think the staff report back was that we didn't have anybody sign up on that. We did have a couple of people, as y'all who were on the commission know, who came to the last round and made public comments who were neighbors in that area. When you get over to page 17, you see an Exhibit B, okay? So remember, you're going to have an ordinance here, and in that ordinance, which we numbered Ordinance 2958, you basically are saying, okay, 2958, it's got an attachment, and 2958 refers you to an Exhibit B and says, here's the special rules. So if you're not used to reading these, we'll go through it. Modifications to highway corridor. For the area identified as base highway corridor in Exhibit A, same map I just showed you, all the highway corridor standards remain in effect with the following modifications. Okay, this is on page 17. The allowable uses, the permitted by right uses allowable in the district are going to be limited to those that are shown as permitted, temporary, specific use, permitted, restricted under our current zoning, right? So all that's saying is that if it was allowed under highway corridor, gangbusters, it's allowed here, okay? Then you're going to add to there. In addition, the following will be permitted by right. Amusement, commercial, outdoors, compliant with the parking, landscaping, and all other standards applicable in highway corridor. Rodeo arena, compliant with parking, landscaping, and all other standards applicable to highway corridor. Resale of salvaged building material in an indoor retail store, compliant with parking, landscaping, and all other standards applicable in highway corridor. So I'm going to describe those three as we wanted to make sure that if they were able to look at their site and really put the landscaping, the parking, and all of that stuff in there and actually be compliant with highway corridor, then they would automatically be able to do it. But I would tell you that I don't think either parcel is going to fit in that category because there's just too much out there that's a violation of standard highway corridor rule books, okay? So I don't really think that's the category we're going to end up in, okay? The category we're going to end up in is, in addition, the following will be permitted by specific use permit. Amusement, commercial, outdoors with special exemptions and provisions, SUP only. Rodeo arena with special exemptions and provision, SUP only. Resale of salvaged building materials and indoor retail store, compliant with special exemptions and provisions. Because our read on highway corridor tells us this: whether it's the rodeo arena or whether it's the EvoTrans site, they're not going to meet the letter of highway corridor. It's going to be too hard. It's going to be too difficult. There's going to be something under highway corridor that they're going to come forward and say, I need an exemption. I need this to be changed. Either one of them have quite a bit of unpaved, or it's paved, but it's not concrete or asphalt, right? It is a gravel, or it's a base material. It's not something that meets our standard rule book related to the parking requirements, okay? So rodeo arena is an example. There's a lot of unpaved parking surface out there. Are they really going to do all of that, or are they going to prefer to come to you and say, hey, I'm going to take advantage of an SUP that gives me permission to have fill in the blank percentage of that parking lot as the existing gravel and base material, and I'll pave the other percentage of it and pave my fire lane, but I'm going to leave most of that alone. There's an interior parking and drive area at the EvoTrans site. Well, if we're playing by the exact highway corridor rules, that would have to be paved. When you put that S in there, they could come forward and say, hey, this is our request. This is what we'd like to do. We'd like to have it be paved within this area right here, and we have this area over here where we're going to request that it can remain a crushed gravel or whatever other type of surface that is maybe it's an all-weather surface, but it's not asphalt and it's not concrete, okay? And so that's the kind of thing. I can tell you I have walked around both sites. I can tell you they both have challenges, but I think that there's opportunity out there for both of them where, you know what, if you start doing a few things with the improvement on the exterior of it, I think that either one of those landowners could come forward and give you a really good vision and give you an opportunity to see that they're going to be a great citizen, that they're going to be a great business, and they can do a list of very specified improvements and have a really nice project out there. So we're thinking it's, again, it's not a vote to say, today you get to go open up. It's a vote to say, hey, we'd like to look at a list, okay? That's essentially what you're saying tonight with a yes vote. You're saying, okay, give us a proposal, come back in a future meeting, give us a 1 to 10 list of the things that you want to do different that don't necessarily match up with our standard rule book. We want to do this with a fence that's different. We want to do this with a exterior building material that's different. We can't have this many parking places. We need that many parking places. Whatever that is, when you really get into the nitty-gritty of it, I think that would be an important part of it. Obviously, the EvoTrans site has also the issue of, okay, we're going to do a indoor retail store for resale of salvage building material. So remember, in your highway corridor zoning, it's only resale of new things. There's no resale of anything used out there as part of that highway corridor zoning, okay? So it's not a location where you're gonna have a thrift store, it's not a secondhand stores, that sort of thing. So you need a specific allowance for that. But remember, at the EvoTran location, they would come forward and say, hey, not only do we need to take advantage of this item that says resale of salvage building materials in an indoor retail store, we're also going to ask for permission to have a garage where we repair our equipment to be back over there. You guys have all driven past it. They've got one building up at the front that they want to use for retail sales of salvage building materials, and they've got another building out there that's got 3 or 4 garage bays in it, which they want to use for office use, and they want to use, and they have been using for garage repair of their various equipment that goes out and does their demolition work and their other activities. And so you would anticipate that if they're going to come back to you, they're going to come back and say, hey, we're going to have a gate here. We're going to make sure that people who come into our resale shop won't be able to walk over and go into the garage, because obviously you don't want to mix back office garage with retail sales. You got 2 buildings, should be relatively straightforward to come up with that. On the other hand, that's the sort of thing that whenever I've seen a planning and zoning commission deal with that type of topic, what are they doing? They're putting it on a little map, a little schematic of the site, and they're saying, hey, this is where my fence is, this is employee-only zone, this is the guests, this is the people who are going to come shop at my resale shop. They put all that together for you, and that becomes essentially a part of the SUP. You don't just get a list, you also get a map or a schematic of what that site looks like, and that's what you would anticipate having come back to you. So I know I'm taking up some time here, but I wanted to be thorough about it. We are recommending it as staff. We recommended in February. It's unchanged since February. We're going to continue that exact same recommendation because we think that's the right thing to do here. And again, look at this as a 2-step process. Step 1, if you put this in place, then you're giving an opportunity for the applicant to come back at a later date and say, hey, we're going to now apply for an SUP, and you'll have to judge that SUP as a planning and zoning commission at the time when it comes forward, and ask yourself if you feel like if it does the, meets the needs of the planning and zoning commission at that location. So that's my presentation, and I'll hand back to you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. I will now open the public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this item? Please step forward and state your name.
F.L. Sebastian, out of Sigleville.
Good evening, sir.
Evening. I'm in favor of the fact that the young man said, let's don't tear it down. It's been there a long time. A lot of that's the truth, and I agree. I'll tell you a little bit about the property itself that I know of, the 11392 FM 148, which is beside the rodeo. It was a disaster several years ago, and it's been cleaned up. If you've been here any length of time, it was terrible and extensive cleanup. Turned around, did another extensive cleanup. The reason it was sitting vacant for so long was we was trying to put a tire shop in there. I was a little upset when they said, oh, you can't put a tire shop, garage / but they could put a discount tire right down the street. And it wasn't used tires, it was new tires, and helping the community out there, the farm tractor tires, which was pretty prevalent at the time. Anyway, not mad about that, but it sure did discourage me from the city when they came and said, well, what else can we do? And they said, well, you'll have to talk to somebody else before you can do something else, and we'll talk to you a little. And then they said, oh, well, he's on vacation. Well, that went on about 60 days, and then they say, oh, wait a minute, you lost your grandfather clause. We want you to come into the city volunteer, which I said, no, let's don't go into the city volunteer league. Let's wait till they take us in. We'll wait. So I sat on the property for a while. That's why it was vacant. Didn't want to be vacant, but couldn't do nothing with it. They told me, well, you can do other stuff with it. I said, well, like what? It's a garage, tire shop looking place. Yeah. I said, you can make a daycare out of it. I quote that. You can make a daycare out of it. I think, I can't make a daycare out of that place in that building. That's terrible. That won't work. So being frustrated, I said, well, just wait and see what happens, like y'all are doing right now. Let's play it out, give them a little extension, this thing blowing going. Now you have a local, hard-working, I might add, honest young man that's got a business. Look at him. He's still in his work clothes, just like me. So he's dedicated to the city. He even had welcome to Terrell on his sign out front. If that's not committed to doing good for the city, I don't know what is. You know, that's pretty good plus for y'all. Anyway, that's about all I have to say. Just letting you know a little bit about the past, and appreciate you giving the young man a chance to do good and help the city, and not be on his case with making him do this and do that when he's trying to do good as a young citizen. Yeah, and be careful. He might end up running for mayor one of these days. By the way, that's what I did. I'm the mayor of a town across the street from here. Been on the Economic Development Board for 17 years. May I approach the bench?
Go ahead, sir. Thank you. Appreciate your time, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Please step forward and state your name, sir.
My name is Gerald Harris. I'm the occupant at 11392 North FM 148. First of all, I do want to say that I am appreciative of the fact that we are going to be considered to be able to remain there. It's been a lifelong dream of mine. When I was done playing NFL football, I decided to come back. Every financial decision that I've made has been to get back to this city and to give back to this city. Everybody that works at EvoTran is from the city of Terrell, graduated from Terrell High School. That's what I try to do. I've employed countless people from this city. Some of them are not still with me. I am trying to give back, and I'm trying to give back in the only way that I know how. I'm not just giving it to people, I'm making them earn it. But we are working every day, and we work to serve the people of the city of Terrell. I do not have any issues with this as long as there's not any silver lining for me. I don't want to be put out of business. I don't want to have an economic hardship created for me like the rodeo arena has. The last time we were here in February, it was a very volatile situation. I'm the only person here today that I know of from that group. There was a lady by the name of Heather Hurd. She has not been granted power at her place, and she has a residence there. She's not being allowed. She moved a tiny home in there and everything, and she is not being allowed to proceed with her investment. I forced the issue. I didn't ask for forgiveness, or I didn't ask for permission, and I didn't ask for forgiveness. I forced my way in there. I've been trying to get back to the city for years, and it was always something that didn't meet this, that didn't meet that. I saw a golden opportunity. Stepper has not been able to get that place leased. I went in there and I cleaned it up. I made it look better. I gave it curb appeal, and I have plans for it. I have not just plans of the demolition, the excavation. I am here to stay. I will not take that for granted. I am here to stay. I will invest in Terrell. I will always have business interests here, no matter what. I was born and raised here. I will be here, no matter what. Mr. Hood, you called me the other day, and I'm sorry I missed that opportunity, but I hated that I wasn't able to serve you, sir. And thank you for the call, for considering us. So, like I said, Mr. Sims, thank you for putting this on the table. Thank you for making some concessions. I think we need to do more of that, especially for our small businesses in this town, to help give them kind of a stimulus, especially after COVID, because we're all finding it too hard. I mean, the big box chain stores, they can go anywhere they want to. But the people that are going to give back to here, the people that are going to have their kids in GLA, the people that are going to give back to the schools, the people that are going to, that you can't put a price on the amount of energy that people from here are going to put into the schools from an energy standpoint, not just money. I've put money in the schools, but I've also put my kids in schools. I've also helped other people's kids in schools. I have given the time, I've volunteered. Those are the things that that y'all are gonna get from me, that y'all are gonna get from EvoTran, small business. It's not just stepping over dollars to get the dimes. And I will make other improvements to the property throughout the course of my residency there. All righty?
Thank you, sir.
Any questions for me?
No, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Do we have anybody else? Okay, do we have anyone here that want to speak on this item, step forward, and not in favor of this? No one? Okay. I will now close the public hearing. Move over to item 5.2. Discuss and consider ordinance 2958, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Terrell, Kaufman County, Texas, providing for the creation of a planned development highway corridor under the provisions of 31A Appendix 2 zoning ordinance of the City of Terrell on certain real property located off of Interstate Highway 20 on the southwest corner of Sage Hill Parkway and Farm Road 148, consisting of 15.655 acres of land out of the Swing and Law Survey, abstract number 512, Kaufman County, Texas, and more particularly described by meets and bounds and deeds recorded in volume 3215, page 388, and volume 2573, page 326, real property record of Kaufman County, Texas, also known as 11300 and 11392 FM 148, Terrell, Texas. The planned development will allow for the use of a rodeo arena and additional retail uses, providing the repeal of the conflicting ordinance provided for severability and providing an effective date. Is there any discussion? Yes, ma'am.
Question one, to simplify, really what we're trying to do here is allow folks to use properties in its original form, folks that got caught up in a rezoning technicality at the end of the day, that then said, because you've now changed the use, it has to kick it into this new highway corridor. But really, the original use was rodeo, manufacturing, whatever, for these properties. So we're just allowing folks to continue, for lack of a better description, what it originally was. Is that not correct?
I think that's an excellent summary statement.
Okay. Question two, when it says other retail uses, what exactly does other retail uses mean?
That's the resale of salvaged, resale of salvaged goods. So an inherent part of the EvoTran business, so far as I've understand it and have toured the facility, is, let's say you're going out to a 4 or 5 houses that need to get demolished somewhere in Dallas, and you're going to strip stuff out of them. So you might come away with various fixtures and, plumbing items, dishwasher, whatever it is. And so part of the salvage business is to find a place to resell those. So right now, that effort is, I'd just kind of describe it as smaller scale. And I think that the general intent here is that front building, there's 2 buildings out there, right? One kind of runs back along the creek, and the other one is up on 148. The one that's up on 148 is the one that in the tour I received is the one where it's intended to have that be the resale shop. and make that something that folks can go into. So I think there's a realization there that that building wasn't necessarily built for that purpose of being, quote, retail shop, but I don't think that it's particularly challenging to make it handicap accessible and lit and blah, blah, blah. I think that's a pretty straightforward effort for him. But when it says other, the very specific language in that Exhibit B I showed you, that's the only extra retail thing that you would be able to do in that zone. Yeah.
Any question? Anybody else? Is there a motion?
I make a motion of the approval of the attached ordinance for the Plan Development PD for 15.655 acres, City of Terrell, Kaufman County, Texas, as submitted, as described with the conditions and exhibits.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
A second.
Second. Have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, we move on to action item 5.3 and 5.4 have been moved to next month. We're going to move over to 5.5. Conduct a public hearing to receive comments regarding a zone change from commercial to light industrial. Property is located at 1331 South Virginia Street, City of Terrell, Kaufman County, Texas. Mr. Snap.
Committee, I bring to you here a zoning change request. Here you have on your map there that's located. This is located on Highway 34 in proximity of Airport Road. It's highlighted on your screen, and it's facing mainly State Highway 34. The request before you, the applicant requests that they be changed from commercial to light and industrial. This property, you have to go to the next slide, Katie. As you can see, the current zoning right now is light industrial around there. This one property is commercial. And if you'll turn to the next slide, this is where the future use map of what is intended as approved in the comprehensive plan to saying what the future of this land would be commercial, be local retail offices along that Highway 30, State Highway 34 corridor. So along that is what the intention of that property. So this property was has a future use for that. They're requesting to change from commercial to light industrial. Based off this map here of what the future land use, this doesn't comply with the future land use plan of what the city has outlined, so staff does not recommend this. Have any questions? We can answer them.
So, just so I'm understanding correctly, currently, the land use plan has that whole swath as commercial.
That's correct.
And so, and they want to change it to light industrial, but that is not what the future holds for that.
That's
zone,
correct.
according to the city.
That's correct. And the applicant is present today, so he wants to change it to make his land more viable for the future. No intended use expressed at this time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I will open the public hearing. Anyone here to speak in favor of this item, please step forward and state your name.
Yes, sir. My name is Tom Norton. Long time lived in Terrell. I've had my office here for over 60 years. This is a project that I would like to see approved. In my time in Terrell, I've done 5 or 6 residential developments. I've started Metro East, out west of Terrell, as an industrial park. I built one building that I owned until I leased it. Then I built several more. I think I built 5 or 6, 7 buildings out there over the past 50 years. I started that in in the 70s, and that'd be 50 years ago. And the development has really expanded. I did 2 streets when I first started it, and it's put in rail. I've done a lot of things in the city of Terrell. I've sat in your place for 15, 18 years. I've been on the city council. And let's talk about this property. I've got 2 properties there. One of them is just to the south of the existing one. I've got a contract to sell it. Frito-Lay has got a contract with me to purchase the property. It's supposed to close in next month or 2. It's on light industrial. That property is. All the property around this I want to change is light industry. It's been light industry forever. I can't imagine any future use in that particular area there'd be for that 3.11 acres of land. Right now, I'm paying a little bit less than $10,000 taxes per year, through the single appraisal district. And I need to get something on it and get it gone. I'd appreciate anything you can do to help me get this zoning change. It's not affecting anything or anybody. It's been vacant for over 80 years that I know of. I don't think there's ever been anything on it. And I will see that something's put on there and be taxed by the city of Terrell. The property that I'm selling, people will have over $1.5 million, $2 million involved in it. And that'll be good for the city. Frito-Lay, or the people that are buying it, will they've had a place out east of Terrell for 25, 30 years, maybe longer than that. They want to get in the city limits. The property around me is all light industrial. There's a railroad track right behind me. There's Maydix has an office right back there, as does Flexible Foam. So it's all light industrial area, and the property across the street from me is light industrial. Now, I don't know what else they think they can do with it, but, you know, paying $10,000 a year for a vacant piece of property, that's not right. I need to get something on it. The city of Terrell needs something on it. It's been vacant for, like I say, over 80 years. Never been anything on it, to my knowledge, but I know for 80 years. I appreciate any consideration you can give me, and I don't see a thing in the world that it would hurt to do a 3-acre tract, get it just like the property around it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time, sir.
Sir?
Appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Anyone here to speak against this item? Step forward, please, and state your name. No? Okay. I'm now closing the public hearing. We're gonna move over to action, to item 5.6, is to discuss and consider ordinance 2999, an ordinance out of the city council of the city of Terrell, Kaufman County, Texas, amending Appendix 2 zoning ordinance of the city of Terrell by changing the zoning classification of certain real property, more particularly described as Lot 2A, Block 729, Terrell Revised Edition, and also known as 1331 South Virginia Street, City of Terrell, Kaufman County, Texas, as shown on the plat attached hereto as Exhibit A and made a part hereof of all purposes for commercial to light industrial, providing the repeal of conflicting ordinance, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Is there any discussion?
Questions, thoughts? Sir, first of all, thank you for your service to the city all those years. I think we all appreciate that. One of the questions I have is, did I hear that the city was not in favor you got, was planning department not in favor? So that's my thoughts on that are, we look at a couple things. We look at current state and we look at future state in terms of where we want to go as a city and what we want to be. And when I look at Highway 34, and actually I was just having this conversation with someone else earlier today, we're starting to see this kind of trend towards our entries that we fought so hard to quote-unquote protect during annexations being controlling what they were like and how they felt, and we're being littered with industrial everywhere as we enter into our town. And when folks say, I can't imagine, what that would be, I can actually imagine a lot of commercial on 34. I can imagine mixed use. I can imagine, if you think about 1836 coming in, that space with, I don't know that I would consider that industrial, but it's a really nice quality building. It's got a great experience to it. And so I kind of see it as industrial as an exception, even though current state says there's industrial everywhere, to rezone it because of what's there, not because of what could be. I don't know. That causes me some pause personally.
What is the future use expected to be of that property?
It's commercial, is it not?
It is commercial.
It is
now, but
commercial.
they're talking about the city,
No,
I couldn't build anything on it now.
Excuse me, sir. Yes, a future shows retail and offices used for the future.
Yeah.
Okay, right now it's all light industrial or commercial right now.
And it's all developed except what's right across the street from it. And it's developed as light industry.
Correct. Okay.
But tell me what you do with it.
But the future goal is for those adjacent, all these properties to be commercial at some point in time, because that's the zoning overlay. Is that correct?
I think, is that gonna be like retail? Correct, yes.
That is correct.
Right.
I couldn't do anything on the commercial zone. I couldn't get a building permit on it because it's planned for something else. So I'm gonna pay taxes for 50 years till you decide what you're gonna do there? It's a 3.11 acre tract. I can't imagine.
I understand that, sir. Okay. I appreciate your time, sir. Anyone else have any discussion? Do I hear a motion? Now, keep in mind, we're thinking about the future of Terrell here. So it's something that we're gonna be using in the future, and following what the city plans, so.
Well, we have seen staff, they've done their homework, and basically, I'm going to concur with staff since they've done their homework on this matter and move that we deny this request for zone change.
Okay, I have a motion to deny. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second motion to deny. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? This motion carries, being denied. We appreciate your time, sir. Thank you. All right, we're going to continue to action items. 6.1 is discuss and consider final plat for, excuse me if I say this wrong, Phagan Addition, Lot 43R, Block 5 being a replat of Lot 44 and 45, Block 5 being .191 acres, City of Terrell, Kaufman County. Is there any discussion? That's basically just a final plat. Do we have any discussion in regards to this? Yes, ma'am.
If I'm reading this correctly, it's someone, the applicant is asking to combine two micro-size, super skinny into one larger one.
Correct.
Yeah,
The one.
to 150.
Mhm.
Where is this
That's on Medora Street.
Just south of University.
South Medora.
Mhm. Any other discussions in regards to this? Do I hear a motion?
I move to approve item 6.1 as presented.
I have a motion to approve. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second. We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries. Continue to 6.2, discuss and consider a final plat for Midland Heights Addition Lots 1R, 2R, and 3R. Block 1 being a replat of a portion of lots 7, 8, and 9. Block 1 being 2.168 acres out of the West Rayel Survey, abstract 418, City of Terrell, Kaufman County, Texas. Any discussion, please? It's a final plat, so.
Yes. No.
Probably was before my time, and I see it's a final plat, but what's the overall goal for the, what is it for? Like, why are we replatting? Is it, can you give me some history?
Staff?
Can anyone give me any history on this one?
We can,
Sorry, I apologize.
Yes, this is after it's going to make plans to build single-family 7.5. Part of the parcel is in a floodplain, so they're trying to make that the parcels where the parcel is actually for land that's not usable. So the other part's going to actually be for single-family.
So are they combining or are they splitting it?
They're splitting it.
They're splitting it. I see. And so they're trying to split it.
So a parcel will be a waste, a floodplain land.
I got it. And then
Unusable land.
Right.
Not a
and then
floodplain, but unusable land.
I got it. And then the
There's a
other
drainage
parcels
goes
will be
through there.
single family.
So he's trying to accommodate for that.
any other question, ma'am? Any discussion? Do I have a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the final plat for the Midland Heights Addition, Lot 1R, 2R, and 3R. Block 1 being 2.168 acres, City of Terrell, Kaufman County, Texas.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries. Okay, we have a business item to discuss, 7.1. Mr. Snap, I guess we'll discuss our future planning and meetings.
Committee, I'd like to just bring forward so you can start thinking ahead. We're getting towards the end of the year, and in the past, before I was here, there has been times that the November and December meetings are combined. But we'll see how it's progressed. We'll get feedback from you. But that's getting into the holiday, end of the year, people are taking off, things of that nature. Looks like December 14th is workable, kind of before the main Christmas holidays. But I want to get you aware of the dates that are coming up towards the end. So be thinking about whether you want to combine any of those down the road to accommodate, so we can make sure we have a complete committee is in a quorum. So, any questions on that? Okay.
Appreciate the advance notice. That'll give us a lot of us plenty of time, especially during the holidays.
So, the homework on this for you is look at your dates that you have in your personal lives and see if we're going to have any, do we need to move anything or combine, okay? Last item relative to dates, it was handed out late in front of you, is a planning and zoning workshop that is presented by the North Central Texas Council of Governments. This is a 2-day conference here, and if you would like to participate in that, the city will help in assisting in those funds to do that, to get you, if you wanted to use some training, we have some new members on here that want to get some guidelines and some basics and learning some of the rules and regulations of what you got to do. this is a good basic workshop to do. If you are interested in doing that, get back with Omira, and she can help coordinate that for you and make accommodations to get you registered or whatever. So there's a link on there if you want to go look at the details of what's.
Will that be at the Arlington, the office in Arlington? Or is it like a webinar,
Yeah, it's going to be at the COG. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Appreciated the information. That's it. Meeting's adjourned. The Capital Improvement Advisory Committee meeting, Thursday, July 27, 2023. We're gonna start off, do we have any visitors out here that want to talk to something in regards, not on the agenda tonight? None? Okay. Well, thank you. Next on the agenda is adoption of the minutes. Do I have a motion? These are from the last meeting that we had, which was,
Make a motion that we approve the minutes from our last meeting, July 20, May 25th,
yes, May
2023.
25th. Yes, May 25th. I have a motion, and I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries. I'm gonna go to item 4.1, discuss and consider approval land use assumption for impact fee 5 through 18 update. Okay. Guess Mr. Snap will be presenting tonight.
Now, I'm going to turn the show over. I'm just going to introduce, we have Melissa Bunger from Freeze & Nichols. And Freeze & Nichols is our firm that we're utilizing to calculate and help us determine our impact fees. She's going to go through a presentation and walk you through some of the details, and have any questions, we can resolve those. I'll turn it over to you, Melissa.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening. Thank you for having me this evening. Is it possible to get the presentation on the screen? I don't have it memorized. Although, you could talk off a paper copy if needed. Thank you. Awesome, thank you. So this evening, we'll be really covering land use assumptions and hoping to get an approval this evening since this is a basis of impact fees. But we will briefly walk through the steps again. We went over them back in May, but just wanted to revisit them. I'm not sure if everyone was there at that meeting. It's not working. I know. I don't know why it's not working.
No, sir.
There we go. Awesome. So just an overview of our study tasks. The first step is to identify service areas, and we've done that. We'll be presenting that this evening. And then develop land use assumptions. What does that mean? That's growth over the next 10 years. We're looking at population, so residential growth, as well as non-residential. So we're looking at that in terms of employment. And then after that, we'll be doing a lot of calculations to determine water and wastewater needs to help facilitate the growth that's planned. And then what the impact is for each household or each business on the water, wastewater, and roadway systems. So this is just I guess the basis of impact fees is really to provide a funding mechanism for the city to put in new infrastructure to help facilitate growth. And all of this is based on Chapter 395 of the Texas Local Government Code. It has a very prescriptive outline of how to conduct these studies. So it's a fair, I guess, technical background. Yeah, see, I don't know why it's not doesn't seem to be working. So for roadway service area, it's combined to the city limits. And so we've identified 6 different service areas, and each service area has its own unique color. It's just a requirement in Chapter 395 that the service area maximum is a 6-mile diameter. And so we've developed circles and kind of identified what those service areas looked like. And then one unique thing here is that wherever you collect money, you have to spend it. So if you have a development in the green northwest zone, then you have to spend that money to put in roads in that northwest zone. So that's a little bit unique compared to the water and wastewater service areas. So water is confined to the ETJ, so we're planning to go out to the ETJ for the whole entire water service area. And it's all one service area. So you don't have to worry about where you're putting a new development and then where you're spending the money. It's all just one service area. And then wastewater is very similar. It's confined to the ETJ, so it's almost the entire ETJ. There are 2 developments that we are not including in the wastewater service area, but overall it's almost the entire ETJ. It's also one service area. So impact fees are focused on growth over the next 10 years, and that's just based on Chapter 395. As I mentioned, we'll be looking at population as well as employment. And this really serves as our basis for our capital improvement plan. So we're looking at not only the quantity of people in employment, but where it's going to be happening. So then we can show where infrastructure is needed to help facilitate that growth. Just a little bit about historical growth. It's not been a tremendous amount of growth historically. We are seeing a pretty decent rise over the last 2 years in terms of population growth here in the city. You see before that, looking back to 2015, it was in the 1% to 2% range, but the last 2 years have been 6% to 8%. So we are seeing an uptick in population growth over the last several years. So looking into the future, our proposed developments over the next 10 years, we've spent a tremendous time. One thing I will note also that's kind of related, but in order to spend money on a project using impact fee money, it has to be on your impact fee CIP. So if we think a development's going to come in and might need infrastructure to build it or to serve it, then we want to make sure it is on that, included land use assumptions, we have that project. Because it's not on your impact fee CIP, you can't use impact fee money to help pay for it, if that makes sense.
Any other questions?
Let me add in here, these, I've been we've been doing impact fees since 2004. We're required to update them every 5 years. Back in 2004 and 5, we were projecting these kind of growth rates because that's what we were seeing from the developers that we were talking to. And a downturn in the economy that occurred in about 07, 08 changed that dramatically. And so looking at these numbers and looking back at what we've done, they look shocking. But we're not doing rocket science here or brain surgery. We're just projecting ahead and saying, if these things do happen, this is what all these developers are telling us today, and if the economy stays strong and they build all these houses, we have all this growth, we need to be ready. So what you develop from this next is a capital improvement plan, and what the capital improvement plan does, that develops costs for water and sewer and roadway improvements that we need to serve these things. And at the end of the day, what you get out of this is a fee that you calculate that we can in turn charge each resident or each business that comes in to help these new people that put new demand on the system to help them pay their fair share of growth. If you don't have it, you've got no way of doing it other than just negotiating with them. This gives us a legal, state mandated Chapter 395 way of capturing capital funds. Not all of it. You can't make them pay for 100% of it because the law won't let you, and that's not reasonable for most people. This helps you capture a portion of the funds needed for the demand put on our system for water and sewer and roadways going forward. So 10 years from now, if we grow at these rates, we're going to double in population in the city of Terrell. And that's a, I don't want to be the boy who cried wolf. I've been up here for 20 years saying this is going to happen one day. Well, we could be at the doorstep of this happening, and we just need to be prepared going forward. If it doesn't happen, we're not going to cut your pay for being a board member here or being a member of the committee. So everything will be okay. If we don't grow at this rate, that's okay. We'll be prepared for it. But if we do, we need to be prepared, and that's all this really does. It's not a commitment. We could grow it. We think we'll grow at these rates if all these developers do what they're telling us they're doing today, and we got to be prepared for that. We don't want to be unprepared, and that's what would mean if we want to change these or artificially lower these at this point. Yeah, so this is what we do after tonight. You're going to see this again. She'll show you, if we can get to the next slide here in a minute after we vote on this. You're going to see this again in December. And in December, you're going to see a capital improvement plan. And you're going to see lots of millions of dollars for improvements, water, sewer, and roadways associated to help meet the demands. And so what you do is you calculate demands from these growth rates, and what you're going to do, and the demands on the water and sewer system dictate capital improvements that need to be made to meet those demands. Those things will be calculated. They'll calculate how much they are. Here's what you need to do. They're very familiar with our system, our water and sewer system, and the roadways. They say you need to add these roads or build this road, and they'll show all that, and you'll see all that in December, and then that'll start to make sense. And then after that, you'll have a fee calculated from that helps you to understand how all this ties together.
But who's actually paying?
Say that again, I can't hear you.
Who's paying? So I hear growth developers, right? Which means there's got to be added infrastructure. So where are those dollars coming from? Who's paying that? Are developers?
It's going to be, that's again, let me go back and what I said earlier, I'll say it again. You can only capture up to 50% of the impact of what these developments have by law under impact fees. You can negotiate separate agreements with some developers to capture more than that. We have a TIF fund that can pay for some of these, or TARs, whatever you want to call it. They can pay for some of this, or it comes out of, it's gonna have to come out of the general fund of the city or the utility fund or whatever, stormwater fund, whatever impact that is. So everybody pays for it. The city's gonna have their fair share. They have to pony up on some of this. And developers are gonna have their fair share calculated by impact fees. And that's what it's set up for.
And tonight, we're just trying to approve the growth rate that you're, right, not monies or just that we approve.
We're just trying to get a growth rate based
Growth rate.
on what we know today from
That'll help
talking
you
to
guys.
multiple developers. And the numbers are staggering and looking at them, but they appear by all things that we're on the doorstep of this growth we've been looking at for 20-plus years. Remember, impact fees were instituted in 2004 because we had a development that wanted to occur. We had no mechanism to help pay for that. We would have had to pay 100% of the capital cost, the impact of that, and we put a moratorium on development in order to do that. And that's what we're trying to avoid by having a mechanism to help pay for growth, to pay a fair share of growth under the law.
You kind of understand that, ma'am, or? Did you understand that, or?
I do, but what happens hypothetically, just kind of riddle me this as we're talking about it, like this is in a kind of this is a growth plan based on what developers want. But what if the city or people that currently reside in the city or folks that have been born and raised here in the city don't want this kind of projected growth? How are we?
I understand
right?
I understand where you're coming from, ma'am, but the thing is, these numbers, if I'm correct, they're not focusing on what, it's already here. This is already coming. It's come, they're projecting at this rate. Whether we want it or not, it's gonna come this. If we approve what they're saying, the percentage that's growing, that's, they already have that earmark because we got, this growth is coming already, right? At this, may not be high, it may be higher, maybe a little lower. We wanna get just a, kind of like a base level to where to start. Down the future, it could drop or it could go higher, but we want to start at a certain point, right?
That's why I'm asking that question, because this is we said it was projected, which means it's based off of things that may be occurring, but they haven't occurred yet.
But these are already, are coming already.
But they're not here yet.
These projects are already been approved.
They have been approved?
These projects are already in the works.
This is not all approved. This is just
Yeah.
a planning
It just, correct,
Yes,
right.
that's it.
So all we're doing is just on numbers.
These take multiple years to put into place, and we can't react overnight. This is just giving us a financial mechanism to help pay for some of these improvements that may need to be done, probably will be done if this growth occurs, as we're projecting here based on the best information we
And
have.
we're going off these numbers.
Yeah, we're doing the best we can with the information we have. bottom line.
Now, like I said, it may not grow that much, but we just got to have a baseline to go at. Any other discussion, any questions? Do I hear a motion? Do we need a motion on this? No.
I just wanted to say on the real estate side of it, with the growth projection that is going to take place. And what they do is, it's called municipal utility districts. And so with the growth, with the home bills, those fees, those charges are going to go to the residents.
Well, I would understand that, ma'am, but, you know, it's just something we'll discuss at a later time. Right now, we're just going to focus on what we have here. Thank you for your time, though. Thank you, ma'am. Any other questions for?
I make a motion that we approve this recommendation for approval of the growth rate.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
A second.
I have a second to approve it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion's approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else on the agenda, sir?
We have to have a kind of path forward slide, I believe is all we have. So, like Steve mentioned, we'll be back in December and we'll be talking about what does that capital improvement plan look like to help meet that growth, and then we'll have calculations. So like for a single family home, how much, impact does that have on infrastructure? What does that cost? For water and sewer and for roadway for each individual development. And at that point, you'll also discuss recommendation to council. So you could recommend the maximum allowable, or you could recommend something lower. So we'll do lots of benchmarking. You know, you have a lot of neighbors around here that have impact fees. You know, what are those cities charging? And so you'll be able to kind of decide what you want to recommend to council. And then at that point, then council will decide what they actually want to adopt early next year. So that will be our next steps in this process. Are there any other questions or comments before we adjourn? Thank you.
Thank you very much.